Distraction involves shifting focus away from important issues to maintain control. For instance, during a serious discussion, changing the subject to avoid addressing the main problem. Fear-mongering instills fear to control behavior. This can be achieved by exaggerating the dangers of a situation to make people follow certain rules. Infantilization of the audience refers to speaking to others as if they were children to negate critical thinking. For example, using simple language to make decisions without thinking them through. Appeal to emotions means acting on emotions to influence the unconscious. This can involve telling emotional stories to evoke empathy and garner support. Ignorant and complacent audience manipulation involves manipulating a group of people who don't question things easily. For instance, not giving all the information to keep control over what people think. Reinforcement of guilt makes people believe that problems stem from themselves. For example, blaming someone for things that are out of their control. Creation of a common enemy identifies an external or internal enemy to unite the people against it. For example, creating a negative image of a certain group to distract from real problems. Reduction of complexity involves simplifying concepts and information for uncritical acceptance. For instance, offering simple solutions to big problems without explaining them fully. Manipulation of information means selecting and presenting only data that supports one's narrative. For example, only sharing studies that agree with a certain idea and ignoring those that don't. Gaslighting manipulates the victim's perception of reality to make them doubt themselves. For example, denying facts or events to make someone think they're wrong or confused. Social isolation involves separating individuals from their social connections to make them more dependent and easier to control. For example, discouraging relationships outside of a controlled environment. Constant repetition means repeatedly saying something to make people believe it's true, even if it's not. For instance, repeating slogans or phrases to make people accept certain ideas without question. Promise of rewards or threats of punishment is using rewards or punishments to control how people behave. For example, promising benefits for following rules or threatening consequences for breaking them. Emotional narrative involves telling emotional stories to influence how people think and act. For example, using personal stories to create empathy and gain support for a cause. Exploitation of authority means using someone's authority or reputation to make people agree with something without questioning it. For example, quoting experts without providing evidence to support a claim. Creation of a false necessity involves making people think they need something when they really don't. For example, creating urgency around a product or service to encourage people to buy it. Divide and conquer means creating divisions within a group to weaken opposition and maintain control. For example, stirring up conflicts between different groups to distract from important issues. Manipulation of public image involves controlling how someone is perceived by the public through media manipulation. For example, highlighting positive news about a person while hiding negative information. Use of technology involves using technology to monitor, influence, and control people remotely. For example, using social media algorithms to show content that influences opinions. Creation of emotional dependence involves creating strong emotional bonds with people to gain loyalty and control. For example, using emotional campaigns to make people feel dependent on a leader or group.